Hey Eurovision fans, we have the full results of the second semi-final of Eurovision 2024. I'm going to analyze the stats to tell you the main stories that happened in the semi-final. 10 countries qualified, 6 countries didn't. What the hell happened? Let's kiki. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Tom. I'm an Irish Eurovision analyst, and you can find all of this stuff on my Eurovision channel. So before I start, just a quick reminder that I've already done a grand final analysis video, which I'll link here. I also did my full analysis of the first semi-final as well. I'm obviously doing this, and then I'm going to start my 3-part series analyzing the grand final. I'll do a jury video, a tele video, and then another like mixed bag of fruity tooty stuff together. I'll give it a better name, don't worry. Okay, so the main story for me in this semi-final by far is Latvia. Now, you may have seen some insane YouTube guy saying that this was a definite no in terms of qualifying predictions, but this surprised so many people. If you saw my semi-final 2 reaction video live from the arena, you'll have seen my reaction.
Latvia!
No way, you are kidding me.
Yeah, this is an absolute fairy tale considering that Latvia had non-qualified 6 times in a row. They were 16th in the qualification odds, so last place. Most people thought that they didn't have a chance, you know, the couple of people who were long-term believers. But it's not just the fact that this qualified and broke Latvia's 6 non-qualification streak. It wasn't even close to not qualifying. This came 7th in the semi-final. It actually did really well and had a 34-point lead over 11th place Czechia and a 29-point lead over 10th place Norway. So really not even close to non-qualifying. Really surprising. One of the most pleasant surprises of this entire year. Really couldn't have happened to a nicer guy as well. Dons has been a fantastic representative for Latvia this year. Really nice guy, very well spoken, seems to be really well liked by all the other contestants as well. So this was such a pleasant surprise for me. I loved being wrong about this. I also like the way how it left a little bit of mystery in the semi-final as well, because the odds are getting better. We've got more streaming information. So I'm glad that the odds got something so wrong, because it means that next year there's going to be that like, oh, who are the odds going to get wrong this year? It makes it less obvious who's going to qualify. So I really enjoy that aspect, because waiting to see who qualifies is such an exciting moment, probably one of my favorite moments in the whole Eurovision season. That announcement of those 10 countries, it's only 5 minutes, but it's just like one of the most magical, like Christmas-like experiences in the whole contest. So a lot of people are going to ask, what did he do right? I said in my review that I thought this was pretty staging, not much was happening. Now, obviously I was watching it in the arena, but I've watched it back live since. And yeah, it did look really pretty. I didn't think there was anything like super wow in it. I thought that the hoop he had looked really cool. Particularly at the beginning as well. There were a couple of like very cinematic, gorgeous moments in it. I thought his costume was actually kind of cool as well. I think that would have grabbed people's attention. At the end of the day, I think the key magic sauce in this song was the fact that it was so unique in the semi-final. We saw in semi-final number 1, Silly Capsis was the only girly bop. She opened up the show and still qualified. In semi-final number 2, Dons definitely in a semi-final with a lot of female energy. And if we look at who qualified from the semi-final, all of the non-female acts qualified apart from Musty. So Joost Klein in 2nd for the Netherlands, Nima for Switzerland, Pull-Up and 5 Minuten for Estonia, and Dons for Latvia. And then the only one out of them that didn't qualify was Musty from Belgium. And if you look at the bottom 6 who didn't qualify, they're all female acts apart from Musty. Now, is that a coincidence? I don't know, because at the end of the day, I do largely agree the 10 that got through were actually really good quality songs. I thought overall, actually, the semi-final was very strong. Whereas the first semi-final had a very strong first half and a very weak second half. I felt like this was strong throughout the whole thing. Very competitive semi-final. So yeah, maybe a little bit of magic was just the fact that he was a male ballad in a semi-final that had a lot of upbeat female songs. And he stood out and he was memorable because of that. I thought that France coming a little bit before him was going to damage him, having another male ballad, but it appears not. So it's good to see that I don't think these automatic qualifiers being in the semi-final is interfering. I thought maybe people would say, well, I preferred France, so I'm not going to vote for Latvia. Maybe people were like, I want to vote for France, but I can't, so I'll vote for Latvia instead. Who knows how different people are thinking? Maybe some people are thinking method A, some people are thinking method B. There's so many different people of different ages from different countries. Absolutely wonderful, really great that Latvia have broken that streak. I've spoken before in my first semi-final video about how it's not good for a country to go through this long period of not being on the final. It gives a sense of people don't like us, we can't do anything right. It's good that Latvia have broken this. And I have to admit, Latvians don't complain. I have plenty of videos where I talk about Latvia, and I never see Latvians saying people hate us or anything. So I like that they've gotten this break, a reprieve from non-qualifications. Last year was really, really harsh with Sudden Lights, with an absolutely stunning song, which I'm convinced would have done exceptionally well with the jury, and actually probably could have gotten them a very decent result if it had just scraped into the final. And if we look at their points breakdown, they got points from 12 countries. They got a 12 from Estonia, which is really lovely. They returned the favor, also giving Estonia 12 as well. I have to admit, I don't associate Estonia and Latvia with point swapping, so I think that was more just that they just happened to like the entries. But if we look at the rest of Don's points, 4, 5, 5, 7, 7, 7, 3, 6, 3, 7, 6, these are all top 8 finishes. 12 top 8 finishes, really great. No 2s or 1s for them. And we can actually see that most people who didn't give up points were countries in the eastern side of Europe. So Albania, Armenia, Greece, Israel, and then the big 5 countries in France and Italy. So yeah, there was quite a Eastern-Western love-hate relationship with Dons. So I'm very happy for Latvia, and I'm excited for them next year. I thought Supernova this year was a really, really high-quality national final, and I thought Vestules were amazing. Really hoping that they come back to Supernova, if not next year, very, very soon, because they've got tons of talent. I love Katrina's Cat song as well, which I still listen to and I still play for my 2-year-old niece. I feel this is a very deserved reward for Latvia. I hope that they will go back more into the kind of Latvian niche, because this does feel like a little bit of a compromise. In fairness, non-qualifying 6 years in a row, you probably, I think I told them to compromise. Like, I'm not going to be hypocritical and say don't compromise. But now you've got this qualification under your belt, go back to being slightly risky Latvia, because I think that's one of the reasons that people like Latvia in the contest. Speaking of breaking barriers, let's talk about another country which broke a 6-night qualification streak, and that was Georgia. They came 8th in the semi-final. Nutsa singing Firefighter, a really fantastic result for them as well. Called quite late as well. I think this was 9th called, which definitely caused me a lot of anxiety. Yep, she got points from 13 countries, including a 10 from Armenia. And this is good because last year, Iru with Echo, she went onto a talk show and she felt the reason she didn't qualify was because there's no Georgian diaspora. It's all like diaspora voting in the semi-finals. And this kind of puts pay to that, because really the diaspora situation is the same as it was last year. They just sent a better staging. Last year I thought it was a wonderful song. The lyrics were bad, let's be real. And then the staging was worse than the music video, which we need to make into a Eurovision crime. Please, people, stop making music videos that are better than your staging. Nutsa single-handedly ending that hypothesis. This isn't a diaspora thing. They sent something much stronger. She performed amazing, great voice, great dancing. Very, very well-deserved qualification. If this had been in semi-final number 1, for example, if you swapped Georgia with Cyprus, this would have been higher up in the semi-final. I think it is a testament to the fact that we had so many badass, strong women in semi-final number 2 that I think that her effect got diluted a little bit. And interestingly, if you look at her spread of points, it's pretty much the opposite of Don's. So if you like Don's, you didn't like Nutsa. And if you like Nutsa, you didn't like Don's. I'm sure there's people who like both out there. I'm not being serious. Those countries I said that didn't give points to Don's, Albania, Armenia, Greece, Israel, France, and Italy, they were the ones that gave points to Georgia. So they didn't want Don's hoop. They wanted Nutsa's humping the floor. There's something for everybody in semi-final number 2. But yeah, 5 top 5s is really great for Georgia, and I hope that this gives them a little bit of a boost as well. You know, they have sent some really cool songs in recent years. Like Latvia, they also had a harsh non-qualification last year, having a really, really wonderful song. In fairness, with Sudden Lights, I feel like they did everything right, and they were just unlucky getting a crap running order and a crap draw. Whereas with Georgia, I feel like they dropped the ball. That was more their fault. But still, great to see that they've picked themselves up, learned their lessons. This was such a super solid package. Similar to Latvia, feel was a little bit of a compromise. I'm not getting that weird out there Georgian feel that I normally get. Same thing, don't blame them for compromising when you've got 6 non-qualifications in a row. Next year, they can look at what they did right in terms of looking clean and professional, but still bring that Georgian weirdness. They do fantastic in Junior Eurovision, so they have got the pedigree there. I want to see Georgia get on a little bit of a streak, qualify and get back into the top 20. And as you may have seen me post on Twitter, this was the end of the 3 longest non-qualification streaks in Eurovision of active countries. Georgia was 6, Latvia was 6, and Ireland with 4. Fantastic. If you'd asked me at the start of the season how many of the 3 are going to break their streak, I would have loved to have 1. To get 2 would have been amazing. To get all 3 is just like amazing. I'm so happy, especially when you look at the last 7 years. 0 of them qualifying in 2017, 1 in 2018, that was Ireland. 2019, 0. 2021, 0. 2022, 0. 2023, 0. And then boom, 3 out of 3. So crazy serendipity that I'm totally into. I'm not complaining whatsoever. This is awesome. This is a huge confidence boost for all 3 of those countries, and it's really good for them and the competition. It really puts paid to this concept that some countries just aren't liked. All 3 of these making it through because all 3 of them put through better packages that had a niche that appealed to someone. And again, I wasn't expecting Latvia to have such a strong niche, but it clearly did because they got 12 top 8s. So with those 3 countries qualifying, who is the new active country with the longest non-qualification streak? And that is Denmark, getting their 4th non-qualification in a row. I spoke about earlier in the season how I thought the contest being in Malmo might give them a little bit of a kick up the ass because Copenhagen and Malmo are so close. This is as close as you can get to Denmark hosting without them hosting. And I felt that there would be a little bit of pressure or pride on the line and DR might deliver. They didn't deliver. As a national final, it was one of the dullest national finals that we had. Saba, amazing artist, sung beautifully. They stuck her on a box, so let's be real, they didn't give much of a story. They did try some things on the LED and they gave some effects to her, but overall, this is just not groundbreaking staging. It's a similar vibe to Måns Zelmerlöw in 2015. That was 9 years ago, and it felt like a poorer version of that as well. So Denmark just not able to come up with these new ideas, be innovative, be daring and risky. And so they now have the longest streak of active countries. Andorra have 6 non-qualifications in a row, but they're not coming back anytime soon. Montenegro have 5 in a row. I'm not sure what's happening with them. I'm not expecting them back. But if they did come back, they would take that dubious crown away from Denmark. Now, one thing to note is that this year, Sweden was an automatic qualifier. They joined the Big Five in being randomized into semi-final number 1 and semi-final number 2. So there was a 50-50 chance that Sweden would be in this semi-final, and they weren't. I think if Sweden had been put here, they probably would have given Denmark around 10 or so points, maybe even 12, who knows. Norway were here and they gave 10 to Denmark. We could guess that Sweden would be somewhat similar. When you keep in mind that Denmark got 0 points from France, Italy and Spain, it's pretty reasonable to say that if Sweden had been one of those, Denmark would have qualified. They probably would have come in 10th. Maybe they would have knocked out Norway, who knows. But if Sweden had come in, they probably would have given points to Norway as well. And actually, Denmark would have qualified over Austria. So a little bit of luck there for Austria and a bit of bad luck for Denmark. Does Denmark want to be relying on Sweden to qualify? I don't think so. They've got a bit of a rivalry going on. I think they want to qualify on their own 2 feet. So yes, you shouldn't be hoping that Sweden are the ball pulled out in your semi-final to make it through. You should be going through because your song is amazing, your staging is amazing, and they didn't have that this year. They had an amazing artist, but they didn't have the amazing total package. They got points from 9 countries, like I said, 10 from Norway, 5 from Estonia, but other than that, they weren't in the top 5 in any other country. So Denmark in a real dire streak right now. I have a lot of Danish followers. I would love to do a what's wrong with Denmark video. So if you have any sources that you can send me, articles, interviews, behind the scenes stuff, even if it's in Danish, please write the name of the interview in the comments. If you leave a link, sometimes YouTube will automatically delete your comment because YouTube doesn't like links. But yes, if I get enough source material, I will definitely try to do a what's wrong with Denmark video because there's a lot wrong. This 4 non-qualification streak feels a little bit deserved to me. Just a massive lack of risk and daring in their entries recently. Okay, let's go to the next big story in the semi-final, and that is from San Marino. So in case you didn't know, San Marino doesn't have a televote because they share the same phone network as Italy, so you can't tell whether a phone call is coming from San Marino or Italy. Because of that, San Marino used a jury in the semi-finals, and in the final they used the same jury as their jury score, and their televote is an aggregate. It's a secret magical formula of other countries in the area or ones that have affiliate with San Marino. They put them into a cauldron and they stir it around and they come up with San Marino's televote points. If you discover what the formula is, some people are going to come around to your house and put a horse's head in your bed, so don't even try. My point is that in the semi-final, we get a jury, and you can just see how incredibly different these scores are from the televote. So really interesting insight into how the jury potentially voted in the semi-final. And in case you don't know, all of the juries vote in the semi-finals, but those jury scores are not revealed. They're kept a secret. Again, if you find them somewhere, you're probably going to be neutralized. But we can see here 0 points for Israel, 12 points going to Switzerland, a very strong indicator of what was going to happen in the final. If we look at the non-qualifiers, San Marino giving 19 points to the 5 non-qualifiers that they could give points to. Obviously, they can't give points to themselves. 6 to Czechia, 7 to Denmark, giving an indication that maybe Denmark would have done really, really good in the final with the jury if it had made it. 2 points for Albania and 4 points for Malta. So 19 points in total given. The second largest amount of points given by any of the countries which are all televotes. Norway giving 13, but that's largely due to a 10. And Spain giving 12, but that's also largely due to a 10, them giving 10 points to San Marino. Not surprising considering that Megara are Spanish. And I think this really highlights that the people who qualify from the semi-final are the televote favorites. At the end of the day, if you look here, this kind of implies that the 6 countries that didn't qualify maybe would have been stronger with the juries. Now, just because San Marino jury voted that way doesn't mean that everybody else would. But yeah, I do think it's interesting that the only jury in the semi-final gave points to 80% of the non-qualifiers, whereas the second most was 50%. So quite a big increase. I don't think that's a coincidence. At the end of the day, this is what this system does, is it kind of kills jury songs that don't have televote appeal. I'm kind of stating the obvious, but that does have effect in the final, which I'm going to talk about in my jury video, where there's less competition for the jury. Because if we look at this year, Denmark potentially would have done well with the jury, and Czechia and Malta also doing well. So who knows how these songs would have done if they just managed to creep into the final. There are jury bait songs that need to overcome this first obstacle of qualifying for the final, and then they can get all those delicious jury points that they've been craving. So yes, a very small sample size, but I thought this was extremely interesting in shedding light in possibly how the juries voted in semi-final number 2. Okay, before we run through all the countries, let's have a look at some of the general stats. If we look at the amount of countries that each entry received points from, we can see that the top 4, Israel receiving from 18 countries, Netherlands, Armenia, and Switzerland receiving from 19. So that's every single person. So again, very similar to semi-final number 1. If you've just got broad appeal, great song, great package, you're going to get points from all over Europe, and you're going to be at the top of your semi-final and probably do well in the final as well. Greece and Estonia in 5th and 6th, getting points from 16 countries. Latvia from 12, Georgia from 13, Austria 15 countries, but these are all pretty small. 8 points from Israel, but other than that, not in any top 5. So people liking this, but not absolutely loving it. And then 11 countries giving points to Norway. And here we see a similar thing to what happened with semi-final number 1 with Australia and Serbia, where Czechia actually got points from 14 countries. Norway got from 11, but Norway qualified because their points were just a little bit higher. So Czechia getting 6 from the San Marino jury, but other than that, not being in the top 5 of any country. So a lot of people appreciating this, but not enough of a strong vote. You could potentially argue that if Czechia and Norway had been swapped, so Czechia were 5th in the running order and Norway were 2nd last, if they had swapped, could Czechia have gone through? I think you could probably argue yes, because the points difference between them is only 5. And I think if Czechia had been 2nd last, they just would have gotten more viewers. It's a very niche song, also kind of rocky as well. So Czechia and Norway were kind of competing with each other, except Norway got the last laugh because they were later in the show. So keep in mind, in the semi-finals, we didn't have voting from the start. That only happened in the final. So yeah, a little bit of bad luck for Czechia. I think if they had just had a little bit of better luck with the balls, very similar to Denmark, they would be in the final. But Czechia have a really great record recently. I think that just one non-qualification shouldn't dampen their spirits too much. I hope that we get confirmation quite early this year, because last year it was a little bit late, and that was coming on the back of being 10th place. So this year they've got a non-qualification. Is the broadcaster going to be as quick to confirm? I'm not sure. We're going to have to wait and see, but fingers crossed that we see Czechia again next year, because I feel like they send edgy stuff. I feel they're very strong in staging as well, and elevating, bringing a lot of drama. Other than Czechia, we can see there is a very clear correlation in that the amount of countries who give you points, you're going to qualify. And if we look at top 3s, we can see this is absolutely and utterly dominated by Israel and Netherlands. If you remove Netherlands and Israel, 15 out of 18 of those countries had those two in their top 3. We can see there's a little bit of a drop down to Armenia and Switzerland, who both had 7 each. And we can also see this points plateau, which is similar to what we had in semi-final number 1 as well, where we had 2 countries at the top. This second plateau is a little bit smaller. It's only Armenia and Switzerland, and then we have this more steady climb down from Greece all the way down to Norway. No running order luck in this semi-final. In the first semi-final, we had 6 of the first 7 songs qualify for the first time ever, but we were back to basics. In semi-final number 2, we had 6 songs qualify from the second half and 4 from the first half. That's very normal. That's what happens in the majority of cases. And songs number 1 and 2 from Malta and Albania coming last and second last. So that's disappointing to see. Having said that, 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th are all pretty even. We've got 13, 14, 16, and 18 points. And if we look at these sweep of points, Belgium, San Marino, Albania, and Malta, they are countries that you would expect to get points. So for example, Belgium getting 5 from France and Netherlands, San Marino getting their biggest points from Spain, Albania getting their biggest points from Greece and Italy, and Malta, actually in fairness, Malta don't get diaspora points. Malta don't start with anything. So I think you could kind of argue that if you took away diaspora points, Malta came 13th. So I don't know, it's a bit of a stretch, but yeah, we'll talk about Malta later. So Netherlands coming in second place. Now this implies to me that if they had been in the final, I think that Netherlands would have come first, second, or third in the televote and probably ended up coming around 5th. So Euro Bruno did out the jury points because the jury did vote in the jury show, which happened on the Fridays. He worked out that Netherlands got 58 points. Now, would their juries have voted differently if they had known that Joost would be in there? I don't know. I think they were probably just voting on what they saw. Keep in mind that none of us knew anything at that point. They would have just been watching the semi-final performance, which looked like it was in the arena. Like, you wouldn't have been able to tell that that wasn't from the jury show because the audience kind of looked the same. The performance went well. So yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that he would have gotten 58 points had he actually performed in the grand final as well. And then his televote would have been large. I think overall he probably would have come around 5th. At the time of filming, still no update about what's happening with Joost. Don't have any new information to add. I'm hoping that he'll be cleared and that Netherlands will be offered a wild card into the final next year and Joost will come back. I can't imagine Joost coming back unless there is a different leadership in the EBU or there's some sort of like special circumstances. But yeah, I'm devastated for Dutch people because they were so excited about this. Again, I still don't know what's happened because we were given so little information, but I really hope that at some point in the future, we will get to see Joost in the Eurovision final. Okay, so let's talk about Switzerland. Nemo singing the code, the eventual winner in the final. And interestingly, Nemo only came 4th in the semi-final, and I looked all the way back to 2008, and this is the first time that a winner has not finished in the top 2 of their semi-final. So Nemo wasn't even in the top 2, they were 4th, not even in the top 3. Now, keep in mind, if there had have been juries, I think it's pretty obvious that Nemo would have won the jury. So probably would have come first with the jury and then 4th with the televote. The majority of the time, the winner of the contest usually wins their semi-finals as well. Some exceptions being Loreen last year coming 2nd in her semi-final, 2nd to Karia. Azerbaijan in 2011 coming 2nd in their semi-final. Ukraine in 2016, Jamala coming 2nd in her semi-final, and she actually came 3rd with the juries as well. 3rd with the juries, 2nd with the televote, 2nd in her semi-final. So Nemo has the dubious honor of being the lowest ranked qualifier to end up winning the final. Now keep in mind, I think the producers can see the jury score. They say that they don't look at the televote. I don't know if they say the same thing about the jury. I don't know if they claim to not look at it, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that they can see the jury score. No one is going to resist the temptation to take a sneaky peek at the jury results when they're sitting like right in front of you. So they would have known that Nemo had a huge jury score from the semi-finals, and I think that's why they gave them a good running order in the final. Armenia coming 3rd in the semi-final. This is a really amazing 3rd place for them, and this is actually the 3rd time that they've been top 6 in a semi-final in a row. Rosalind and Brunette also being top 6. I think Armenia is in a really great streak right now, not just in adult Eurovision, but also in junior Eurovision, where they're pretty much always top 3. They've got a great system going on. I'm not sure if they've got different teams or not. If you are Armenian or know their system, please let me know what are they doing, because I really like their system. The last 3 years in adult Eurovision, they've had some really cool, unique songs. Definitely leaning into the female energy. Their entries in Junior Eurovision have been female artists as well. Not too surprising considering the majority of Junior Eurovision is female artists. But I do think that Armenia are in contention to win pretty soon. They ended up getting 8th in the final, which is really fantastic. They got points from every single country, 7 top 3s. This is really well done by the Armenian delegation. Very simple staging. Great, wonderful cultural entry, really fun and vibrant. I'm getting more and more excited for what Armenia are going to do every year, and I think that they're getting closer to getting that first ever win. Never been top 3 though. I think that's probably the next glass barrier to break, is them getting their first place on the podium. Maybe they'll jump straight to first, but I feel like that first podium finish is inevitable. Okay, so next up we have Greece. Marina Sati singing Zari. She got points from everybody except Latvia, Estonia, and the jury. So the Baltics having none of her dice throwing, but this is 4 out of 5 qualifications in a row for Greece, which is really great. And they're on quite a long streak now of sending women. So 7 of the last 8 artists that they put forward have been female. Obviously, Stephanie went twice in 2020 and 2021. Definitely getting a little bit of reputation for being the opposite of Italy, so always sending female artists. And then Victor Vernikos last year being the only non-qualifier in the last 5 years. only third in the running order as well. So you'd think that if this was in the second half, it would have done even stronger. So coming fifth from the third running order slot is really fantastic. Estonia in sixth place, getting points from 16 countries, getting shunned from Georgia, Malta, and Spain. And as I said earlier, they got that delicious 12 points from Latvia, which I totally approve of. And Estonia now on a 3 qualification streak, which is really great considering that they're only 1.2 million people, same as Cyprus. And I don't feel like they're as formulaic as Cyprus is. Cyprus very much tending towards the girly bops, which is working great for them. Estonia, I feel like, sends something a little bit new every single year. They've got some great artists in the works as well. I hope that ECLI can just be a little bit cleaner next year. I felt like this year it was a little bit messy with this weird jury system where 5 songs were put into the final, which were kind of, most of them were a little bit meh. But overall, I generally think that Estonia punches above its weight considering its population and resources available. Just clean up the national final and don't let it deteriorate. So ninth up was Austria, who already spoke about briefly already. I feel like this is more of a Eurofan fetish song. See the general public not being as warm to it, largely getting small points, 1, 2, 3s and 4s, and then 8 points from Israel. Norway in 10th. Now, I wonder, is this going to set off a little bit of alarm bells with MGP? Because they took a little bit of a risk this year. They sent a song in Norwegian, a folk rock song. I thought this was going to be much safer than it was. I didn't think it would be right on the borderline. I know a lot of people were talking about Gunhild's style of singing being a little bit Marmite. Some people like it, some people hate it. We saw that with Aya last year with Blanca Paloma, and then to a certain extent also with Fulén. Less so with the singing, but more in just kind of being a little bit more out there. There's kind of come a little bit of a thing on Twitter that the Aya Fulén Ulvahalm effect. What is going to be the song next year that's beloved in the community for being a little bit weird and wonderful that the general public just kind of shuns? Because Norway ended up coming last in the final. I think they only got 4 televote points. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with MGP. I thought MGP this year was wonderful. Probably my favorite national final. I think we're probably going to have a pop song again next year. At the end of the day, we've had pop for the last 20 years. We've had one rock song. It came last in the final. I got to point out that coming last in the final doesn't mean that you're the worst song, because you still qualified. I think I'd rather come last in the final than not qualify personally. Okay, Czechia in 11th. I've already spoken about them quite a bit, but quite noticeable how they're missing a friend. We can see a lot of these other countries, like Norway got 8 points from Denmark, Denmark getting 10 from Norway. We've seen a little bit of this point swapping. Czechia don't really have a points buddy. So it would be kind of nice if Slovakia did come into the contest. I believe they've just elected a new leader who doesn't want to go to Eurovision, so that's probably not going to happen. But Slovakia have been talking about eventually returning to Eurovision. I would like them to come back and just give some points to Czechia. And at the end of the day, I think this is also down to the fact that Czech diaspora just aren't voting for us, because obviously there are Czech people in other countries in Europe. I always associate Czechia with having quite a low awareness of Eurovision in proportion to other countries. I get lots of comments from Czech people saying that there are people in Czechia who don't even know what Eurovision is, which for me is kind of like, there's lots of people in the UK and Ireland who don't like Eurovision, but there's very, very few people who don't even know what it is. Like, I don't think I've met a single person who didn't know what it is. So I think some of Czechia's problem in getting diaspora points is the fact that there is diaspora, but the diaspora don't know what Eurovision is or don't care to vote. So maybe something similar to what France did this year of getting a big star might ignite a little bit more interest in the contest. Benny Cristo seemed to be a little bit more established, but maybe they need someone who's like real top level. 12th for Denmark, already spoke about. 13th for Belgium. This is a big surprise. Now, early in the season before the pre-party started, people were talking about this potentially being a winner. I think it was up like 4th or 5th in the odds. We saw the pre-parties, the performance just wasn't there. The vocals weren't there. The performance seemed a little bit off. The vibe of the performance for me felt a little bit too boy band, this opening shirt being a little bit too proud-chested. I like the music video, which felt more vulnerable and angsty. I didn't get that from the performance. So a little bit of a misstep here. I spoke earlier about how it should be a crime if your music video is better than your Eurovision final performance. And Belgium are guilty of that crime. Send them to prison, because this music video was absolutely wonderful. I totally got a couple of winner vibes from it. I thought it was really special, but they just lost all of those really great, strong, raw emotions that they built in that. And they just went for something that just didn't work as well. So at the end of the day, I think this is kind of deserved. Musty wasn't able to sing the song as well. We need to normalize people writing songs or singing songs that they're able to sing, please. We had that last year with Denmark. Riley not able to sing his own song either. I'm not sure why they didn't make some sort of vocal change. Maybe they could have brought in some people to help him with the high notes. But yeah, I think that definitely cost him 5 points from Netherlands, 5 points from France, otherwise not in anybody else's top 8. Yeah, this is a big dropping of the ball for Belgium, reminding me a lot of Senec. So this was the Wallonian broadcaster this year dropping the ball. Senec was the Flemish ones. But next year we're going to have the Flemish broadcaster back, which is the one that did Gustav, which came 7th. So interesting to see, will they be able to rebound with the different broadcaster coming in for Belgium next year. 14th for San Marino. Now, I was in the arena for this in the semi-final, and I was so surprised how different the vocals sounded, because when I saw the dress rehearsal, it sounded great. For some reason, in the semi-final, it sounded really muffled and quiet in the microphone. I'm not sure if that's what people heard at home as well, but yeah, I remember hyping this up before, saying this was really amazing, the dress rehearsal. Maybe this could sneak a qualifications or come 11th or 12th. But yeah, when I was in the arena, I just felt very deflated. I was like, oh, that's really disappointing, because I wanted people to see a really great show that I had seen in the dress rehearsals. You know, the second year in a row now that San Marino have used Una Voce por San Marino, I don't know if it's really working. They've gotten 0 points and come last, and then they've gotten 16 points and come 14th. Maybe they will do a little bit better with an internal selection, I don't know, but they seem to have lots of money coming out of a fountain somewhere, so they're going to keep going with Una Voce for some reason. Someone explained to me why they do their national final. It's something to do with money or tourism. 15th place for Albania. They continue their streak where when they convert the song into English, it doesn't qualify. That's been a trend in recent years, so maybe some lessons to be learned from that. Also, they didn't have Sasha Jean-Baptiste this year. Usually she does their staging and does a really gorgeous job at giving it a real elegant look. Also surprised to see that Albania got 0 points from the rest of the world, because last year I felt that they did very well from Kosovo voting for them. I don't think Kosovans were as into the song this year. Again, could that be partially due to the fact that it was translated into English and had that revamp? Overall though, Albania have qualified in 4 of the last 6 years. They should have qualified with Secret as well. That song was definitely worthy of being in the final. So I don't think they need to change too much, but there are a couple of lessons here that I think that they could learn from and take into next year. It would be nice to see them send a different type of act. We have had a lot of powerful females, which I love, but there is more to the Albanian music scene than that. So I'd like to see something a little bit more edgy, a little bit different. And in last place, but definitely not least, is Malta. Very disappointed to see them get last place for the 2nd year in a row. Last year they had 3 points. This year they had 13 points. Are they going to have 23 points next year? I hope not. I hope they have 103 points next year. But yeah, I thought this was a really, really great show. I have to compare, like, why did this do so bad where Silly Capsis did so well? And I think it was a testament to the fact that Silly Capsis really stood out in semi-final number 1 for being the only girly bop. She had a similar show to Malta. I actually felt that Sarah Bonici's performance was better than Silly Capsis' in my opinion. I thought the song was better. I thought the staging was more difficult and looked cooler. But at the end of the day, Malta was in a first half that had a lot of female energy. I felt just got a little bit washed out. Austria also coming later. Georgia as well. A lot more girly bop competition. Greece, not a girly bop in my opinion, but bringing that kind of badass female energy as well. So a little bit of bad luck there. I think if you'd swapped Malta and Cyprus, I think that Malta may have had a chance of qualifying from semi-final number 1. Who knows? I hope that Malta doesn't get too discouraged. They're doing this new national final thing. You know, there's a lot of songs. I kind of make fun of how many 40 songs they have, or it was 36, I think, this year. It's still way too much. But they're really trying and they're really passionate. They want to go their own route of having their own songwriters and their own singers, which I really respect. But I do wonder, how long is that going to take to get fruition? Because maybe it might be better when they have like really, really great artists and then just get the song written externally. But I do understand that that's not a great long-term strategy, whereas creating a great national final is a better long-term thing to do. So maybe they're willing to slug it out. Definitely some bad luck in the fact that they were first in the running order this year and second last year. So we're definitely hoping that when the balls come out next year, that Malta pull second half no matter where they are. I feel like both of those packages were really great. Like, I thought The Busker last year was really entertaining, great song. I thought Sarah Bonici Loop is my favorite girly bop this year. I'm still listening to it. So I don't know, I feel bad for Malta because it's like they're not really doing anything massively wrong. Like, the packages aren't groundbreaking or really wow, but they're not crap either. Like, these are good songs, good artists, pretty well staged. very unlucky running order. So this is 3 non-qualifications in a row now after Destiny came 7th in 2021. She won her semi-final as well. But yeah, 2 last places in a row when you put in so much effort is a little bit sad. Like I said, those bottom 4 countries really kind of drew, and Malta had the least amount of diaspora, so maybe they came 13th. So who were the bellwether countries this year? And we can see that Belgium guessed all 10 qualifiers correctly. So did Czechia. And if we look at which country was the most out of touch, unsurprisingly, it is San Marino, because it wasn't a televote, it was a jury. So not surprising that the San Marino jury disagreed with the televote that came from everybody else. Okay, so that's what I thought about semi-final number 2 of Eurovision 2024. Don't forget that I'm going to have my grand final analysis videos coming up really soon. So make sure that you're subscribed down below so that the algorithm pushes the video to you so that you get it when it comes out. That sentence was way too long. Please still subscribe to me, even though that sentence was really messy. In any case, thank you so much to Carrie-Anne and Maria for supporting me on Buy Me a Coffee. If you want to support the channel, I'll leave links to you in the description down below. And of course, thank you to all my patrons for patronizing me from all around the world. But of course, thank you so much just for being here and watching, and maybe leaving a like and maybe sharing the video. Thanks so much for watching. See you in another Eurovision analysis video very soon. Goodbye. Blah, 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 blah.